Next we're going to hear from also a member of the Revolutionary Poets Brigade, who is also a wonderful photographer. He's also the co-editor with, he does some work with his editor wife, Sarah Page, on Out of R, which is also available here in the store. So let's welcome Stephen Gray.
This isn't going to take very long, is it?
Why?
I'm glad he was careful with me.
I'm really tired.
It's going to go by just like the wind. This is a piece that regarding something that happened to me a few years ago. I was walking out of the cliffs and I was going to walk around the base of the Golden Gate Bridge, and I nearly got arrested in the process. It's called Fort Pointless and the Golden Gate of False Alarm. I was walking on the beach and feeling so relaxed. The pelicans were floating overhead. It's like the facts of life are flying in formation, and their shadows move along the bridge. I'm at the foot of it and in the mood to go around it, but there is a sign that says no trespassing. Qu'est-ce que c'est? I went there anyway, and it was passing strange. The tower started talking with a human voice, saying, "You on the beach, don't move." Sometimes you have a choice. You can run when the authorities have you in their sights, so you can be polite and hopefully not spend the night in jail. A man in combat gear appeared. From what I hear, an M16 is not so friendly. Governing with fear is how the administration works. The man went through my bag. He's looking for explosives. This is much ado about nothing, and he mentioned 9/11. I nearly said it was an inside job. I didn't want to lose my head or get my camera confiscated, lining up a shot of him and a suspension bridge. But things can be forgotten when they're not on film. Another soldier with a gun appeared, protecting us from surfers and the setting sun. I said I work for an attorney, criminal defense. He thought that was amusing, but it still was kind of tense. I pointed out the windsurfers who were not so far away. He said I shouldn't argue, and no matter what I say, I didn't have a legal leg to stand on. And what's more, the surfers get arrested if they ever come ashore. He noticed someone down the beach, a man who wore no clothes, and said it was illegal. I'm illegal, I suppose, whenever I go swimming, but my weapons are revealed. They're capable of procreation. A magnetic field of paranoia, it is polarizing everyone and getting on my nerves, and we are living under the gun. Security is overblown, reminds me of Fort Point beneath the bridge. It never fired a shot. It is Fort Pointless and the Golden Gate of False Alarm, with gun emplacements from a century ago and never used. I'm spacing out. He's checking my ID. They know where I live, no lie. He talks into his collar mic. I look into the sky to see who he is talking to. It was a military helicopter. This is not a very literary moment, but the government can put your life on hold, and 9/11 is not the greatest story ever told. I notice how the base of the bridge is like a firing wall. Compared to concrete engineering, I am very small. The side effects of this regime, we feel them on the West Coast, but they let me go. It's like it was an ID test. I'm walking down the beach, although the helicopter followed for a while. I'm thinking if you wanted to explode a package on the bridge, you want it closer to the road and not 200 feet below the toll booth. But what do I know? The sun is getting low. The beach is practically deserted, though a seal has stuck his head up. It is disconcerting when you're flushing out the M16s, the iron fist inside a democratic glove. But I'm a realist. I like the engineering, but I want to know what's hiding underneath the bridge. A If I was such a law-abiding citizen, I'd have to settle for a limited perspective. There's a word for that. It's called inhibited. I took my clothes off and I dove into the nearest wave. It's warmer than the government, whose power is depraved. I'm swimming in the ocean. I don't want to be arrested. And considering the week I've had, a double-breasted mermaid who can speak in many tongues, including mine, would not surprise me, or a poem ending with this line. Thank you. They have my name and address somewhere.
So does the mermaid.
Let's hope. Well, no, I'm okay with that. Has to do, by the way, with San Francisco having, I think, the highest rate of pedestrian casualties in the country.
And you not owning a car.
I walk a lot. And yeah, so people who walk around in San Francisco, they get run over alarmingly. It's called exposure in the intersection. When they block the crosswalk as you're walking up, a good response is to expose yourself. It is disturbing the repose of those divine appointed beings on their rubber tires, and it is a means of being seen, and it is necessary when you are on foot, a simian among machines. And there's a prince, if not a princess, of the road, secure in the dominion of vicarious mass production, where the fantasy of status is necessitating tunnel vision, and a man on foot is a reminder of a low-down humanism they are fleeing from with four-wheel drive and power steering. They are staring straight ahead, a mere pedestrian beneath them, as occurs when they are running over someone. Your survival could depend on getting their attention. All the better if you have a night reflector on your organ of reproduction, and it glitters in a way that is attractive to the nouveau riche. Your life is in your hands when you are walking on the avenue of bitches in oblivion. I saw one backing up around a corner while she's talking on a car phone and ignoring the formality of crosswalk lines, and nearly cut me off at the knees. I don't know if the sudden sight of someone who is naked is considered punishment. For some it might be a reward, and others would consider it an insult or a threat, as if a naked man could wrestle with a pickup truck. At any rate, the paramedics are removing someone's clothing when they put him on a stretcher, having been run over by a knee-jerk driver, and I'm feeling naked in these confrontations with a ton of metal. Is it impolite for someone to be mooning the oppressor? With your bottom pressing on the window, you're impressing on them that you are alive and present, and you're willing to be putting this encounter on the street behind you if you are allowed to walk away. And that's the bottom line. Thank you. I have gotten very close to being run over a few times, and one time I was walking, I had the green light, it was about 2 in the morning, because some guy had probably come in from a bar, and he ran over my foot. He just kept coming right over through the light, and all of a sudden I'm like leaning over his hood, and I pulled my shoe out from under his tire, and I swore at him. Yeah. It's called The Ingenuity of the Lunatic Fringe. On the lunatic fringes of my complicated brain, I feel the lightning bolts, the passing flare-up of hallucination and spontaneous thought crime. Like the rationals breaking down and anything goes. It keeps me on my toes. It is rejuvenating like a thermal vent to the unconscious, and who knows what will be bubbling up. And so I'm not completely in control, as you can tell by how I did in college, where I couldn't learn an occupation being occupied by other forces that can be distracting, and they're not exactly stable. If you listen to the voices in your head, there's no room for the indoctrination of a full-time job, and you incorporate some otherworldly gyroscopic balances in compensation for the slippery footing in your overmind. It's like you're standing on a 6-foot sphere. It represents the here and now, and you're a veteran of opposing forces when it comes to balance and the fall of man. The effort of a psychological coordination leaves you reaching for the outer limits of stability. You're touching on the cosmic with a touch of madness. There are shockwaves on the edge of town, neurotic echoes, dream debris. You're free associating, but there's no free lunch. You push your body to extremes and find you're having violent thoughts. The metabolic has some diabolic side effects. I'm trying to ignore them. The peripheral vision of the radar in my head. I pick up signals from the collective unconscious, a demented party line. I'm stranded in the arbitrary, looking for the archetypal, typing the result. And I should be a consultant when it comes to taking off my head and standing on it. I'm hearing things.
Turn the heat on.
Is not someone walking on the roof or?
The pipe.
The aliens are here. This is for anybody out there who's a fighter jet pilot.
And who is it?
Called a pilot in limbo. They assassinate the air in order to get there. Break the sound of speed. They need to get around because they're boring on the ground. They're only flesh and thought in a machine the public bought. It's larger than life, a modern terror streamlined with an alibi. They protect us with a supersonic phallocentric metal ripoff, and the telepathic paranoia is projected. They inherit the air as if it wasn't there. An absolute of power like a mountain, and a bomber leaves a lot of holes. Half fighter jet will travel like a hired gun. A man outside the law is never quite so homicidal as those who follow orders. A planet of revolving graveyards, and a jet is leaving more in its funereal wake. A pilot impolite in that respect. The jet attacks the earth as if it hated it. With morbid wings above all things, a vapor trail of those it's turning into ghosts. The lobotomy of a pilot in a cockpit of electroshock. He's working hard, the vanishing point delivered. People shiver when he passes like an angel of death who claims the oldest or the youngest son. He doesn't care. Slaughter a daughter of the air. He's landing in a moral limbo. No responsibility, and his ability is all there is, a hollow victory. A bombing run is leaving broken homes. A shockwave from the future moves at breakneck speed. It breaks the necks of men and women. Going faster than a man on foot, a pilot jettisons a bit of his humanity until he is robotic and mechanical, timing his momentum with the panic-stricken. It is sickening. It breaks a barrier of the human, and his function follows form. A drone manipulated by the physicality of flying and a moral blackout. 1 minute you are listening to Megadeth and pumping bullets into a quiet farming village, and the next you're spitting blood. His plane is hit. He feels illiterate and apolitical, and copulating with a parachute his co-pilot has copped out. His cover blown. The canopy is flipping out of sight. He is falling out of the sky because the natives would defend themselves. Don't they know that he's the living end? Like a man who's being hung, he is ejected with an erection. There is rapid eye movement. Missing in action, he is pissing in the wind. He is missing out on the finer things in life. They will notify his wife. It's called Broken Field Runner. I've broken bones and been arrested, shacked up with a double-breasted divorcee and walked away, hallucinated in LA and landed in a plane in London, walked the desert with abandon. Living is an odyssey involving some immodesty. I've hung out with the naked goddess and defied the usual odds. I don't approve of foreign wars. I never paid to have a whore. I've read a book or two of Proust and still remember getting juiced in New York City, fallen asleep in the Sierras, had a deep debate with someone who's no longer living. Does it make you stronger, all of this, the repetition adding to your reputation? I've been around for half a century and heard the laughter of a woman in the dunes. And when I telescoped the moon, it was enlightening. In fact, I don't know how a man should act, and so I tend to improvise and simplify and count the lies or write a poem, analyze the mass psychology of crowds, and turn up my guitar so loud it doesn't think. I'm spilling ink inside of a behavioral sink. The agents and the editors are warped, but I'm a man of letters. The cognizance, it never quits. Don't blow your mind, you need the circuits. You don't want to be uncouth. I've seen the moonlight in vermouth and near encounters with Vermeer, a composition like a rear view mirror, and it tells the truth. I also heard it in a phone booth from a woman, a rejected writer. I have been inspected and neglected, redirected. On a full moon I'm connected and politically incorrect, but I'm polite when I'm erect. A man, and what can you expect? I never took apart an engine looking for the origins of love and hate. I had to wait for hours in an altered state. I'm nearly broken, vacillating. Others may be salivating at the sight of socialites. I'm more concerned with satellite intelligence. It makes my night. I broke up with another woman and I'm drifting. It's an omen of the discontinual, and life is full of mental cruelty. Although I can't complain, I made it to the south of Spain with your intensity intact and a foundation of the facts. A person can, as Faulkner said, endure a lot of living. Dead men walking don't do much for me, but I was never in the army. This is one I thought I would read simply because it's short. I don't have too many of those. It's called Woman on the Bus. It's a true story. I'm on the bus, so naturally I want to take my shoes off while I tune my ukulele. I can hear the notes much clearer when I'm barefoot, and it doesn't matter if I don't know how to play. I'm sitting on a blanket, and I have my feet up on a seat. A man is staring. You should make yourself at home when you're in public. I am swinging my entire arm and going through the motions. No one showed me how to strum. When you're eccentric, over 40, and you ride on public transportation, you should stay inside your bubble where the clarity is psychosomatic. Something that, yeah, I mean, I should apologize in advance if people like this person, but I don't. I know there's a lot of people who write homages to painters, to artists, and this is the opposite. It's Jackson Pollock, actually. Never mind the Pollocks. He is celebrating premature ejaculation, so it's not surprising if the results are underwhelming and you're feeling disconnected. It's a liberation from value. There's no contact with the canvas. He manipulates a dipstick like an orchestra conductor. He is painting the air, the composition not all there, resorting to a sloppy op art. It's the sort of thing that ends up decorating a vinyl booth. To pull it off, you need a monolithic pretension, and he had it. Fuck Picasso. It's like someone playing air guitar. He's going through the motions. It's a fake out to Minnesota, or in this case, New York City. He is miming what a painter does. He waves his hand above a canvas like a mad magician who is trying to conjure something in thin air. A composition, for example. Nothing figurative, of course. You want to be inscrutable if you're incapable of drawing, and you're something of a lowbrow who is taking on the lifestyle of an artist like a cargo cult. The critic looking at his paintings like a blood spatter expert who is visiting the scene of a crime, pontificating on the magnitude of the transgression. Hard to do when there's no body, and a writ of habeas corpus wouldn't work with someone who avoids the figurative. In fact, his every gesture is an effort to erase it, and a canvas covered in the dried up liquid smoke trails of erasure is a cosmic composition for the overread who worship the virility of Milky Ways. The superiority of our culture after World War II was thought to be exemplified by drippings on a drop cloth by a drunken sleight of hand, and everyone was floored. It represented the elimination of historical content, and in 1948 that sounded good. They wanted to forget. It's like the end of history, a phony concept if I ever heard one. Dip your stick into a pot of nihilism, thanks a lot. The CIA was using it to fight the communists. A canvas lying on the ground. He's nothing if not grounded. He is standing on the edge of it and shakes a little stick. It leaves an overlapping map of drips, and that is so profound. It is a record of the manual gestures of a man and how they're subject to the force of gravity and unencumbered by a brushstroke. As a splatter-day saint, the man could do no wrong. An all-American thug who finally did produce a body when he ran his car into a tree and killed a woman who was riding with him. He left behind a body of work which makes you wonder. A de Kooning is a Rembrandt by comparison. I'm looking at a composition tangled as a two-dimensional tumbleweed. It's not exactly Guernica. It is so meaningless and apolitical the corporations put it in their buildings. What do people see in it? An echo of the cosmic in its random emptiness, the way that others see the Virgin Mary in a tortilla, or an artist in the form of alcoholic Pollock. I'll just do two more.
That was so gentle.
Was it? I was trying to
loving this homage.
That was tactful, right? Was I tactful?
You meant it in the kindest way.
No.
No,
No kindness in that one.
Not really. Yeah. So from there I'm going to go to a fairy tale. This is a modern version of Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, there was an old woman who would kill teenagers and eat them. She lived in Marin, and her home was covered with marijuana plants. When the high school students would come up to her house in the woods to get some pot, she would invite them in, get them stoned, and when they were so high they couldn't see straight, push them into the oven. Considering they were full of THC, it was like making pot brownies, except it was smoked high school students. One day, a boy and girl were walking by after school and saw the pot plants all over the house. They walked up and were pulling off leaves when the old lady invited them in for a smoke. The girl was suspicious. She was an honors student who wanted to be a nurse, and this didn't seem quite right. Her boyfriend was a lowlife, but she put up with it because psychosexually she needed to feel like she was slumming in bed or she couldn't come. But that's another story. While her boyfriend was getting high with the old woman, she just pretended to inhale. She wandered around the place, and glancing out the back window, she saw some bones in the hot tub and a baseball cap with the name of her high school on it. She knew something was amiss. Math was her specialty, so she put 2 and 2 together and came up with homicidal stoner cannibal witch. She pretended she was stoned, slowing down her reaction time and not finishing sentences. When the old woman showed Hansel the oven where she dried her marijuana, Gretel realized she meant to remove him from the realm of the living. In other words, to perform a Hanselectomy. Gretel had spent too much time on the behavioral modification of her stoner boyfriend to lose him now. So she was only protecting her investment when she pushed the old woman into the oven, slammed the door, and cooked her goose. The boyfriend was shocked out of his mind. "That's elder abuse," he said. And in fact, the girl was arrested. But since she was a minor, she only did a year in the juvenile detention center. The boyfriend smoked all of the old woman's pot and became permanently spaced out. So he moved to Bolinas.
Happily ever after.
Of course, they all are out there. I just don't hear from them very often. This last piece is something that I do once in a while. It's writing whatever it is I'm writing, but only using words of 1 syllable. It's called Don't Write a Word. I had a lot of wine last night and did not sleep much, and now in the light of day I am dumb as the moon. I am a heat wave in the air. I have sand in my head and my bones are not my own. I feel like a strange man or a ghost of my old self, but a ghost made of ash and stone. I am so close to the earth in this state you would think I was a monk in a zone. I have no thoughts of the past. Now is all I know or can deal with. That's how real it is, this frame of mind, as if I don't have a name or need one. I'm not out on a limb of words. I want to quit my job and stare at things. Lie in bed like a girl who thinks of sex all the time, whose skin and hair and eyes and blood are the whole world and few thoughts get in the way. It's like she knows the mind is small, so what good is it? Don't use it. When you lose it, which can take a lot of wine, it leaves you on the ground like a piece of old wood, and how cool is that? In such a low-down state, it feels like I have a huge cock and I don't care if it lies in the sun like a dog on its paws. You are right at home in the world. You breathe the air, and what are the odds there is no God out there in a black hole of space where the stars burn gas all night and time bends so you don't know what time it is. And since there is no God, you are free. You only have to look at the facts of life and feel them to the bone and own them as you take on the weight of a rock. It puts you at ease. It may come as a shock to some how close we are to that state, that they would just not ride the winds that move through their head all the time. There are long trails made of words that take you out of your skin and leave you up in the air in no man's land. And if you want to be at peace and feel like you are part of the world like the trees and hills and birds, just knock out your brain. Don't write a word. Put your pen down. Pick up a rock and hold it. Find a clock and make it stop. Your thoughts are a dream. Wake up and smell the tea. The last act ends with the sound of one hand in the air. Thank you.